For sure. First of all, just congratulations to our men's and women's basketball teams on reaching the NCAA tournament. Very happy for those programs. Good luck to Buzz and Joni as they go battle what's not lost on the irony of taking on Nebraska in the NCAA tournament. And then from our perspective, just excited for spring ball. Excited for this opportunity. Excited to get out on the grass. You do so many things when you take over a program, but really we all want to coach football, and now finally we're here. We're at that moment where we get out on the grass and start to kind of build this program into what we want it to become. I also think with spring ball nowadays, there's a much bigger emphasis on getting your fundamentals built, getting the core values of your program built, because with the way the rules have changed, we get about 80% of our practices in the spring in full pads. We only get about a third of them in fall camp now. And so, what we get done, what we get accomplished in spring is going to be critical for how we create our success for the season. I think, what we're trying to get done, we're trying to develop obviously a fundamental base of how we want to play the game. I think we've got to get schematically our guys comfortable with our schemes, offense, defense, special teams, and start to build that so that they've got a really good knowledge base heading out of spring into summer into fall camp. And I just think across the board as a program, we want to focus on developing our football IQ. I think we've got to become a smarter, more intelligent football program. And then the last thing that I'll just add is a couple injury updates, just so you guys have these for the guys that are out at practice, guys that are going to be extremely limited, if not out this spring. Cam Dewberry, Shamar Turner, Aki, Eni White, and Donovan Green, just all recovering from off-season stuff that happened during the season. Nothing that we anticipate going into the summer. Those guys will be out there participating as much as they can, but will be extremely limited and not involved in a lot of scrimmages and team activity. And then one incoming freshman, Kendall Jackson, is dealing with a problem that he had to get fixed from high school, and so he'll be very limited through spring too. And so excited for this opportunity, excited to get out there and coach football again and do the things that we love to do. Watch these guys kind of took what they did this winter and watch it pay off on the field. And so from there, I'll kind of open it up to questions.
To the left, Cease.
Good housekeeping. I was going to ask you about the injury update, but what about Foster as far as track? How much, what spring deals with him?
Yeah, he's tracked.
To the left, Rob.
Howdy, Coach.
Howdy.
So several folks that maybe played for you before but are moving on have talked about how the program is more disciplined and there's more accountability. And they've said that that's a great thing. That's something that this program needed. How do you kind of navigate that when trying to install that into a program with existing players and recruits coming in? And you got some players that may not like that. They might not. They like to get coached hard with the portal after coming after. How do you kind of navigate that?
Yeah, I still believe we have a responsibility to develop young people as men and prepare them for everything that's coming at them in life. And I said this to our guys. I've said this since the portal opened. I was no different when I was here last time. The expectations aren't challenging. What we're asking isn't hard. We want people to be where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there. That's a life skill. And if we can't instill that in our kids, then we're failing them. And I believe that wholeheartedly. And so, we have very few, if any, problems in our program with that. I don't think there's very many people, when it's presented the way it's presented and it's explained the way it's explained, we don't care about a lot of things. I don't care earrings, hats, bandanas, do-rags, how they dress, what they do. We want people in our program to be where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there. That's real simple. I just think that's a life skill.
Down front, right, Carter.
Hey, Mike, wanted to ask about Connor and just how he's recovered from his injury.
Yeah, so still battling. He'll be out there practicing. I don't think he's exactly where he'd like to be long-term. Not that he's behind or anything or hasn't done what he's supposed to do or there's concerns. I think obviously he would like to be a little bit healthier. He'll be able to work efficiently as a pocket passer. I don't know how well he'll be able to truly run around yet. He still hasn't quite been fully out there doing agility work and those types of things. And so, but it's important for us to get him out there and get him integrated in the system. And, obviously, listen, we've had, Connor's going to go into spring as the number one guy, but we've also had two other quarterbacks play very effectively. Jalen Henderson at the end of the season and then Marcel Reed in the bowl game. And so, like every position across the board, there's competition this spring, and Connor certainly needs to be out there and be part of it.
You mentioned focus on fundamentals in the spring. I'm wondering, when you have so many newcomers from portal and early enrollees, does that change how you approach things and just how much more competition do you think this spring will have compared to most springs?
Yeah, it's funny. We talked about that on Monday as a team. Healthy competition is what creates growth in everyone, in every organization, everywhere you are, right? The idea that I'm a little nervous that if I don't do it to my best ability, somebody might get to do it for me, I think is some sort of motivational factor for everyone, not just our players, literally everyone in life. And so I think it's natural when you're new and it's a new staff for it to feel as though every job is open and is open for competition. I think even as we build this program to where we want it to go, and we did this, in year 2 at Duke, every job needs to be open every spring, and it has to feel that way, and it has to be real competition, or else you're not getting the growth within your program that you need to have. And so, we want our guys to go out there and compete. We want nobody to be settled in the role that they're in. We don't want anybody to just go, oh yeah, I'm a backup, that's cool, because I don't think you get better as a program, as an individual, as a unit, as a team, if that's the mindset. And so, and that's on us as coaches to create those opportunities. If we roll out the same starting 11 for 15 straight practices, then we're not creating competition. And so, I know from my time here in the past how much everybody loves to write depth chart stuff. You will not be able to figure out this depth chart. I can promise you that. It'll be all over the place all spring as we try to figure out who the best 11 players are and what roles people are going to have moving into the summer.
Coach, we'll go back behind the lights to Nicole
Yeah.
and then to Cease.
Coach, just how beneficial is spring practice in your first season?
Yeah, I think it's critical always. I think right now, we've got to race against the clock, and I think the way we're looking at it and talking to our guys is, Notre Dame's been a program that's been established for 3 years. We're all aware that's the opener. And so we're playing catch up, not only just in this season, but for 3 years worth of a program. And so, we can't waste days. We can't miss opportunities. We can't not maximize everything that we're doing to try to build this thing to what it needs to be. And, we have a really clear plan. I think the kids understand it in terms of what we're trying to do, how we're trying to get it accomplished. We've got to go out and we've got to really, really drive it forward this spring. And then just with it being the first spring, everything is challenging. We're going to have a meeting today to talk about where the running backs go during individual, or how we transition from a team period to, because nobody's practiced with Coach Elko ever before, right? And so it's the first time that we're going to go out and actually function in a practice. And so, before you even get to, which we have to, schemes and all of that stuff, we've got to get from stretch lines to individual to all of those periods too, right? And so you've got to just build this whole thing in terms of how we practice. And so that's important.
And then just what do you make of the 2 events happening at Kyle Field this summer with George Strait and the Mexico and Brazil game?
Yeah, not much, because again, I stay in my lane. But obviously, listen, you've got an enormous soccer match, which I'm sure is going to bring in an awful lot of people. I am a closet soccer fan, and so very familiar with those two national teams and the magnitude of that game as it heads into Copa America and what they're warming up for. And then listen, George Strait's an absolute legend, and so the fact that he's coming to do the first ever concert at Kyle Field, who else would it be to do the first ever concert in Kyle Field? And so I think it's exciting. I think those are great opportunities for our university to create brand exposure for who we are.
Front left, Cease.
Speaking of schemes, you're going to be followed by your coordinators, and thanks for making your coordinators available to us. But what kind of schemes can we expect from the defense and the offense, and particularly the offense coming from Kansas State? Is that going to be a little bit like the Kansas State offense that Klein ran there? Just what about your two schemes?
Yeah, listen, this I think is probably a great time to have this conversation because you'll get tired of me saying it as we move forward together. But, schemes are so overblown in terms of what they actually are and mean. So what do I mean by that? We run a 4-2-5 on defense. There's probably 50 programs in the country that run a 4-2-5 on defense. If you went to any of the 50, they wouldn't have any carryover. And so what we do is different than this school's 4-2-5 is different. There's no way to put schemes into these tight, neat little packages for the media that everybody wants them to be in. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just a reality of football. And so, we talk more about core values and what we want it to look like. So we spend time on philosophically, defensively, what do we want to be? We want to be a group that can attack. We want to be a group that can dictate to the offense. We want to be a group that tackles well, plays extremely physical, communicates at a high level, doesn't give anything away, forces the offense to earn everything. Offensively, we want to be multiple. We want to be a group that can switch tempo. We want to be a group that can attack a defense, can feature our playmakers, can move people around to create the matchups that we want to create in order to be successful. That's how we talk about scheme. Everybody wants it to be, are you going to spread or are you everybody wants it to fall into these neat little tied up bow packages. I just don't think that's the reality of it. And so as we try to develop this honest relationship as we go through this, I just think that's the reality of what it is. And so, obviously, we're going to put those coordinators in front of you so that you can ask the specific questions of them that you want to ask, and not because I'm deferring or deflecting, but, when we talk in terms of, okay, hey, we're going to go hire an offensive coordinator, what are we looking for? I'm not looking for a guy that runs a certain style of offense. I'm looking for a guy who understands how to use our personnel, how to match people up, how to attack a defense, how to effectively move the football year to year, not just when we have the best talent in the world.
Right side, Donna.
Coach, with the finite time or limited time that you have for spring ball, how important is it during the practices and any time that you have with the team to try and kind of galvanize the locker room and with this new group being together for the first time, getting them to build that camaraderie and team relationship?
Yeah, I think that part we've been able to start already. I think when you start talking about building connection, building culture, building togetherness, you don't always have to be on the practice field to do some of those things. And so, just having meals together, having coaches be at meals together, sitting with each other, putting the phone down and having conversations with each other more often, doing some intentional things to just bring this thing together a lot more, I think is something that we've tried to do. Now I think it's about taking that to the next step, which is healthy competition, right? Which is how do you go out there against each other, play as hard as you can, compete for jobs, compete for spots, compete at the utmost highest level, but keep each other safe, healthy, do it the right way. I think that's kind of now the next part of this thing is learning how to really attack each other and respect each other at the same time. I think that's a really fine line that you walk when you're building a really good program. And so I think that's kind of the next phase. And then I think there's a level of cohesiveness that you've got to build on the field, right? And that's, as much about relationship, but also just about getting to know each other, right? When you're in a system together for 4 years, there's this feeling of like, I kind of know where you're going to be. You know, Connor's run this play with a wide receiver this many times and is really comfortable with it, right? And every play we run Friday will be a play run for the first time. And so how you build that volume of repetition to get comfortable with each other, I think is something that does have to happen on the football field.
And as a fellow Central Jersey native, is it Taylor ham or pork roll?
It's turkey is really what it is. It's not Taylor ham or pork roll. I'm going sliced turkey.
Go to left side, Luke from the battalion.
Coach, can you talk about the workouts that we've seen the team doing this spring as well? How big is that to getting the coaches and the players acclimated with each other, especially with transfers of a new coach is brought in?
Yeah, listen, there's we talk about the off season. We try to make everything game-like in our program, and I think we talk about the off season as a 4-quarter game, and so the first quarter of that is winter conditioning, and there's different phases of that. Obviously, there's a part that is heavy with Coach Moffitt and his staff in the weight room and developing strength and mass and all of those types of things. But then there's a part of it that is us out there as a staff with them, doing some of the drill work, doing some of the agility work, taking advantage of the opportunities that we're allowed to be out there with them. And I think that just builds all kinds of things. It builds comfortability with us as a staff. It builds, one of the things that we're trying to do a really good job of is creating personal relationships outside of your own position group, right? And so, to have the running back coach or the wide receiver coach be out there coaching a DB is something that I think is good for our program. We talk a lot about, nobody has players. We have players. It's not the O-line coaches. His players are the O-line. We all coach Texas A&M football, and I think all of that stuff is really important too. And so, I think you build a lot of different things in that winter workout period. And now, in our mind, we're transitioning to the second quarter, which is spring practice. And so now it's kind of shifting gears, but we've already been out there a lot with them. They know our personalities. We've coached them a bunch, and I think that helps moving forward.
And then I know you're speaking at the big event this Saturday. Is that your first experience with that? And then I know the team is going to be doing some stuff as well. And how big is that to have them out there?
Yeah, obviously, listen, that's something that's really important to the tradition of Texas A&M, and obviously we have a strong feeling about the role we play in the Bryan College Station community, and how we represent ourselves in that community is really important. And so, to me, it's an honor to be asked to speak at it. I certainly jumped at the opportunity to get out there and address the group as we get started, and then our team will play a huge role. We actually have practice during the day, and then Saturday evening our team's going to jump out there for a few hours and get involved and pitching in and helping. And unfortunately, as a staff, we won't get to get involved too much because there's too many recruits going around here on the weekends. But would love the opportunity at some point for us as a staff to be able to be involved in that as well.
To the left, Alex, and then Carter, you'll wrap us up. We've got Coach Klein ready.
Hey, Mike. Offensive line was a unit that kind of had some struggles last year on this team. And so just what have you seen from that group through the offseason, and what you want to see from them try and take a step forward, knowing how critical a unit like that is to success in the SEC?
Yeah, I think the first thing is there's got to be a way that we play the football game, and there's a mentality that you want to have as a program, and a lot of that starts with your offensive line. The grit, the toughness, the mental edge, the way you can control a football game. When your offensive line can do those things, it just creates a certain mentality amongst your program. That's something that we have to develop. I think that the process, the conversations about it have already started. The understanding that that's an area that needs to improve has already taken place. In terms of can we improve to the level we need to, we'll start that process on Friday and kind of see where it goes. And obviously, again, opening up competition, making sure that we evaluate everybody in that room and try to find the best people we can to put out on the field to be successful.
And then when you were here as defensive coordinator, you were still pretty hands-on with the position group when y'all were out there at like individual drills. Are you still pretty hands-on even though you're head coach now?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think my coaches would tell you I'm hands-on from an oversight standpoint. I don't run position meetings. I don't have a group that's specifically mine. I do think I'm very involved in what we're doing in every phase of the program, offense, defense, and special teams. I will bounce around at practice. I will be on both sides of the field. I'll be on offense and defense. There's different parts of practice that I enjoy being around and being part of. And then, my job as a head coach is to make sure that the overall presentation of how we practice looks right. How we transition from drill to drill, how organized we look, how fast we're moving. Are we organized with our drill work? Are we doing the right things? I have to kind of step out of, and did this for the last few years, have to step out of the, just being the safeties coach or just being, and really make sure that everything is functioning at the level it needs to. But I'm sure if you asked Coach Ish, our safeties coach, he would tell you that it doesn't take much to get me back involved in that room.
Carter, you'll wrap us up.
Mike, I just wanted to ask about the Perch software you guys use as a strength and conditioning program. I know Jeremy Jacobs, I think, brought it to you guys at Duke, and Moffitt wanted to bring it to you guys here, and just the benefits that come from getting all that data and applying it in real time and things like that.
Yeah, so we had it at Duke. When we got to Duke, we didn't I don't know how it was utilized previously. We utilized it tremendously. We did not have it here, and it was something that we added in the off season when we got here. Basically, it's velocity-based training in the weight room, and I think it's part of how you're training your body. You can't always just move massive weight, right? There's times where you have to, but in order to get bigger, faster, stronger in a way that kind of is healthy and smart, Perch creates a way to kind of do velocity-based training where you can kind of monitor how you're moving it, right? And so, some kids can bench 400 pounds, some kids can bench 300 pounds at a faster rate, right? And that's creating and developing football-specific explosiveness in your program. And so I think some of those things I just think are really important. And I think it goes back a little bit to, why Coach Moffitt was the guy that we focused on, was because, we talked about this, I think, in one of the other press conferences. There is an integrated sports science in the program that we run, right? There's the old school toughness that you need and some of those things, but there is a very science-based program that we're running. And then obviously one of the reasons why we brought Jeremy over here from Duke is because he's heavily involved in how we've done things as a football program, and is helpful in type of bridging those gaps with Coach Moffitt in terms of how we want to do things as a program, combining it with what Coach Moffitt wants to do and how it all comes together. And so sometimes having a guy that worked for Coach Moffitt at LSU, worked for me at Duke, and is now working for me and Coach Moffitt, it's a great bridge to have someone who can kind of link us both together in a way to get it going where it needs to.
Coach, appreciate your time.
Yeah, awesome.
We've got
Thank you,
Coach
guys.
Klein
Look forward
ready.
to seeing you this spring.